we take a look at Jesse's visit to Sade Entertainment. Tulip takes a Rorschach test, and Cassidy faces the source of his inner guilt. Well, some of it, at least. Plus, we catch up with Eugene, the Saint, and Hitler. So, kind of everybody tonight. It's Preacher! Season 4, Episode 3. Deviant. Like everyone. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Preacher. So yes, of course, spoilers are ahead. Plus, always want to remind you about our quick jump index system. In the description below, we'll have this entire review coded out, time linked, titleized. You can watch the middle of the review first, you can watch the end second, the beginning last. You can watch this review in any order you'd like. So, alright, we are back this week, and I have to say, feeling a lot better after this week's episode. In the comments, there was a lot of back and forth. A few of you were feeling as I was that not just the best kickoff to this season. I know there was a lot of stuff that was sort of set up, and we got to see some of the payoff of that as well. But I think it was too much as I think about it. It was just so much the two episodes kind of canceled each other out. A lot of things seem to have been undone. You set it up and then you undo it to move forward. So it seemed like unnecessary wheel spinning. This week's much better storyline. We're checking in with everybody. I mean, we're all separated, so it does take a lot of different focus. And that's sort of one thing when you got so many different characters and all of their stories are kind of separated. We're only spending a few minutes with each one, and this week we kind of got everybody, like the entire cast, and everyone included inside this episode. So, lot of stuff to hit on, and yet we still felt that momentum was being forward. We got to see Jesse's stories, and again, the one little critique I have with the way that the episode was set up, and I'm assuming this is how we're going to sort of see things play out throughout the rest of the season, is this jumping back forward in time. We're seeing the ends of things. You know, again, last week we saw the end of the Sade visit. He just went in and came out and they left. Here we're jumping back and we're seeing what that visit was. So we've jumped forward, we're jumping back, we're seeing things that are happening at the middle of last week's episode as well. So the time just joining, I mean, it's not a huge criticism, I guess. It feels like because you're constantly retreading moments that you're kind of filling in space. Whereas, not saying that everything has to be told in a linear fashion, but the back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, it feels like we're focusing on a short period of time, and we're just trying to spin wheels throughout there as much as possible. I mean, even to the point of repeating some scenes and moments. Yes, it gives us our feeling in time, but I just, you know, that's the last season. We got to wrap everything up. I think there's so much story to tell. Retelling parts of the scenes that we just saw just feels a little unnecessary. But like I said, that's really my only criticism that I have. I love the stories. They did get cheesy, but that is in the same vein and style that Preacher is. Plus, we got some great fight sequences. We got some story development. We got just the weird Eugene thing, and I love checking in with him. And plus, even Hitler. I mean, like I said, we got everybody in this episode. So, I liked it. I think they did a good job establishing, moving the story forward, moving where we're going in the season forward, establishing some more points, and still getting a chance to check in with everyone. So a lot of balance that I think they pulled off very well. Now, I think it's always good when a show starts out with a strong statement, a strong scene, establishes the tone, the feel of the episode that is to come. Legion did this a couple of episodes back, starting things off with a bang. This week in Preacher, kind of the same thing. A little slow burn, and then, well, not quite a gut punch. Maybe a little lower with that fist. as we get to see our face cream commercial. And I loved how it was sort of set out, because it's talking eternity and this mixture of wisdom and beauty and this blending, this perfect kind of beauty commercial setup. And yet it had a feeling of, are you talking about heaven? Is this like a Grail recruitment? Is this a new stage? It could go so many different ways. Of course, obviously they're talking eternity straight off. So they really sink into the whole heaven, afterlife, eternal beauty type of idea. And when they just pan and reveal Toscani face cream made with real foreskin, it's just, it was a perfect blend, because we had the reveal, and that we're seeing the word Toscani, we're seeing foreskin, there's writing, we're focusing, we're like, oh, really? Is that where you're going? And then, boom, we see Cass with the deli cutter, meat cutter, just going back and forth. No! That established, that was so Preacher. Sucks you in, does something a little tweaky, a little different, and then just, bam, slams immediately. And I'm not sure, when they're talking about Bradford here, again, because we're doing this time back and forth, I am not sure if this is where Cassidy is going, where he's going to end up, that this is a definitive later scene, or if this is the plan. And that maybe that's how they're going to play with some of this timing jumping forth, is the plan where they might be going and then maybe things can change up. I have to wait further on in the season to how this goes. But because they sort of jump back and we're back in Masada and he's in his cell and we've got Frankie telling him, yeah, dear Starr wanted to throw you out in the sun, but I think this guy deserves a forever home. Very, very nasty. Look, he's a good businessman. He sees a resource. It's sustainable. At least he's green thinking. So we can see this whole. So I'm just kind of hoping, especially with the way thing up with the feather and the lock picking the whole Hannibal Lecter outfit, that this is not a definitive future for Cass, because that's awful. But he's leaning that way. Because of guilt. He's carrying a lot of guilt. And viewer Spam, actually put in the comments last week that he believed that that's exactly what they were going to be dwelling on. And you were right on the money. Yes, of course, Frankie talked about it at sort of the end of Last Supper last week, is that, yeah, guys like you feel you deserve it. It's the guilt that keeps bringing you back. And yeah, that is going to be, at least for a while, the sort of focus that we're going to deal with Cassidy, of why he brought himself back. He believes he deserves this punishment. Much of the chagrin of the Archangel there, who really wants to help with Cass on a plan to get out and get some vengeance. I love the two of them together. I love that back and forth. The Archangel was awesome. Have to say straight off, the Hoosier scene, when he does the whole Gene Hackman speech there, in my mind, we're going to be winners. It was a beautiful bit. And I was wondering how much they were pulling in. Like, are we going to see this? Are they just thinking this? Is this going to be on the TV? And no, we see the Archangel, like, completely reproducing the speech. It was just, again, perfect Preacher. Very comical, very well done. And he's so trying to encourage Cass to get out. But again, it's the guilt. That's what Cassidy is dealing with this episode. And we get to see why. We get to see some Cass origin here. It's a young Irish lad ready to go off and fight the English with his buddy Billy. He's going to make the Cassidy clan proud. Make all of Ireland proud. Which, of course, doesn't go that long. So sure, going to battle. And again, old story. Going to battle with your mate. First encounter does not go well. Look, fighting's scary. Especially for kids, never really seen any battle before. They don't think they're going to go out there and actually die and spill their blood. But that's what happened. Explosion, boom, Billy loses a leg. Cass freaks out, goes and hides, and then gets to see the English soldiers come up and mercilessly murder his friend. So, yeah, bit of guilt. In action, always kind of the worst. Survivor's guilt. And Cass has dealt with a lot of that. Also, as Spam pointed out, and we may be dealing with this, the whole vampire clan, They're all dead. Even First Hoover also set on fire by Starr. So a lot of people are dying, especially a lot of the sunlight dying for Cassidy. So he's got a lot of guilt. This is just, I think, we're seeing the beginnings of it. And then, of course, as he's returning home in the swamp, hiding out from soldiers, attacked by some swamp creature, actually vampire, living in the swamp. Not the creature from the Black Lagoon. We're not going to do crossovers of monsters there. But so that was his origin. Now, one thing I know from a cinematic standpoint, we want to go up and look at the house, and that reminds us of we can't cross that line, we can't do our thing, and we turn around and we walk away. I mean, we've seen the scene a lot in books and in film. But it always kind of strikes me, I mean, that's a long walk to be dealing with this. All the way back up to the house, and it's only then where you finally decide, nah, I shouldn't go. I had to see them one last time. But again, I know it's tropish, it just always makes me laugh. I'm like, you know, it's a long time to walk to suddenly turn around and decide, nah, okay, I'm good. But the guilt, they believe that he's dead and he's not going to shame them anymore. So, very cool dealing with all that. Love, God, and I wanted to hit this, as the opening of this bit, when Cass is relaying on that, and Archangel's like, what's that? Sounds like a backstory coming up. That was just awesome. I love self-referential humor when it's done properly. And this sort of fourth wall breaking story, that was just, it was very well done. And of course, we get a final gift from our Archangel as he's lamenting and feeling the empathy, the connection with Cass. Now, did he fart out the feather, or did the fart blow the feather off of his wings? Again, Preacher, it could go either way. But with a feather, he could potentially pick a lock, and that seems to be his case as he's wheeled away there, Hannibal Lecter style, all sealed up and everything, with a feather in his hand. Hopefully that means he can make an escape and avoid that potential future at Bensonhurst. Because, yeah, that whole deli slicer thing, that's no good. Avoid at all costs. Tulip, meanwhile, dealing with a little bit of fallout of her infiltration of Masada. Having to go through the medical ward, got to go through your full checkup. Physical as well as mental, which is where Tulip seems to run into a little bit of an issue. Look, I love Tulip, and all of this was done beautifully. Her reactions to the guards, her reaction to being touched, exactly falling into line with her character. And of course, we kind of start out really with her with a pretty kick-ass little fight scene. Beautifully done. Again, the whole, you've touched me, that's the second time that you touched me, don't do that again. I mean, it was, again, perfect setup where Tulip's going to end up tripping over herself. And I mean, again, that's really kind of the fate of all of our characters, is their own person and their own flaws end up getting in the way of all of their well-developed plans. And as Tulip is, eventually this does sort of work out in her favor. But initially, like I said, it does get us a very excellent fight sequence of Tulip just kicking the butt out of all the orderlies. And I love the music with it. It was very pumped. It was very comic. And again, wonderfully punctuated at the end there as the nurse comes up and stabs her with the sedative and pushes right in. Again, just a great visual, not a small thing. Really showing the action of what's going on. And the instant change of music as it slows down and starts to get out of syncopation. She's back with the, hey, you touched me. Beautiful bit. Again, we're getting the action. We're getting our fill of our Preacher moments. But what, of course, this does lead up to is Tulip's personality test. The doctor's not going to let her go without doing a personality test. And we get to see some insight into that, of course. What does Tulip see with a Rorschach test? A lot of blood, a lot of brains, guns, some dad abandonment issues, and how it was all summed up there. Because they're playing it like this is going to be a problem. You know, she has to pass this test. If she fails, she's not going to be able to get out. And yet, ultimately, this is the Grail. This is the kind of people they want. As long as you're dedicated to God on some level, the violence actually works for the Grail. And how the doctor sum it up is, you're an unrepentant deviant with psychotic personality disorder, abandonment issues, gun fetish. It really did. I think even Tulip had to acknowledge that, wow, that's pretty much on the money, which was sort of a great little reflexive moment as she's posing. You can see that she has to acknowledge that, wow, that Rorschach test did pretty good. That you can't dismiss any of that. And then, of course, ultimately, yeah, that's fine. She's crazy. Can't fix that. As the doc tells Featherstone as she comes in to finally track her down. It was just, again, it was a great bit. We get a little Tulip insight. We get some character personality. And ultimately we find that all of the concerns are unwarranted because, okay, the doc's there to help people, for sure. But Tulip was right. As long as you got the skills, the dedication, the willingness to do what has to be done, you're Grail's kind of person. You can't hold him back for that. And of course we have Jesse's visit to Sade Entertainment. Well, what actually happened while he was at Sade? We kind of brushed through it quickly in the last episode. But you know, and again, I'm glad we get to see it. It is very Jesse. We did get our setup with the pilot, talking about the pilot's code, and is there a preacher's code? And yeah, as badass as Jesse is, he still has a soft spot. Sort of gets him into trouble sometimes. But at this point, it brought him into Sade. Yes, of course, we're referring to Marquis de Sade, the classic author who wrote about sadism, introduced it, you know, from a literary standpoint to the rest of society. Gave it its name. And that's sort of what we're dealing with here. A very eclectic crowd, could we say? We've got everyone. Every sexual fetish is pretty much represented here. You like cosplay, you like bondage, you like furries, you like drugs, you like Wonderland, I mean, everybody. I know, I'm just naming a few. We don't have time to get into all the specifics. Weird people. But yeah, it was a great bit. Overall, enjoyed it, enjoyed the freakiness. Again, it's very Preacher-esque. It's one thing that I really enjoyed about this, the complete just spread of characters that are in here. And as, we'll call him the Marquis, comes down. Ooh, a preacher. Perfect bit. Jesse does give him that moment. Yeah, I saw a kid up there, looked a little scared. Oh yeah, I know, that's why he's rented out for the next week. I was hoping you weren't going to say something like that. You did. You gave him his moment. And then straight off into it, punch in the face, and heading upstairs. Now, I did have to actually rewind because when we started getting this sort of freaky movement, obviously something was going on. I'm like, is there something in the air? But no, it's the moment that he walked in, the door opened up, smoke blown in the face by the girl in the black with the cool little staffy thing. So, yeah, that sort of tripped him up big time. Didn't last too long. Maybe just sort of emphasized his desire to kick some butt, because really that's what this was all about. He goes up, finds a kid, nothing too freaky, at least at that moment happening. And I loved as he's trying to get the kid out, the kid's like, I don't need to get out of here, I'm good. You're a kid, what do you mean you're good? I'm making $35 an hour in a third world country. Yeah, I'm good. It's wrong, very capitalistic viewpoint. Maybe he's older than he looks, but yeah, I just have to say that being thrown in Jesse's face, so much there to try and rescue, and this kid really not wanting to do it. And sure, we didn't see all the depravity maybe it was subjected to. Maybe it wasn't just people liking to take pictures of him. The sad, sad kid. Of course, that's not how it went. Which is why Jesse unleashes. Great bit opening the door, the entire crowd standing in the hallway. Now, he does have at this moment, see, this is what I'm saying. This is all about Jesse purging his internal anger. That's often what gets him into trouble. That's sort of what he's all about. And he's a great ass kicker for sure. But he does have the voice, and he had that opportunity to just tell everyone to leave. Out of the way. Let us go. You can even tell him to all go jump out the second story window or something like that if he wanted to. He has the power to do it. But he doesn't. This is all about venting. It's all about a perceived need to deliver justice fist-to-face wise. And this week, it does get us to our Scene of the Week for this week. I guess you can play this whole thing as a particular scene, especially from the kid bit talking about making $35 an hour in a third world country. He doesn't need to be saved. He's good. That does link up with the fight, but it's all about the fight right here. Why? Because as you guys know, I love single shot cameras, especially with fights. It pulls you right into the visceral moment. It really shows the dedication, the quality, the acting, the submersing of the actor into the scene, carrying out the fight sequence. It's a beautiful way of physically telling a story. Plus, it gets us all pumping in the air, which is a great combination. Now, was this all one shot? Probably not. There are a few points where you could see that they could cut in from scene to scene. I don't doubt that they probably shot this as one whole sequence. But because you jump from fighting to later on to knives to guns, you got all sorts of different effects and visualities and setups going on. You could pretty much see that it was probably shot in several pieces and then just, like I said, seamlessly really stitched together. And again, viscerally just powerful, beautiful, violent, throwing people into walls, and such a great bit, because when it seems to be over, when we get that sort of pull out moment, it's like, okay, this is where we're wrapping it up. He's getting grabbed and thrown through into one of the rooms, and that's going to be the end of it. But they don't. They even give us more. They do that full zoom out, and then we get to see the whole thing. Everybody moving up and down the hallway, fighting. That is brilliant. That really, I mean, the amount of choreography and the amount of time to rehearse and set up both the fights and the shots within the fights, this is a lot of work, and it paid off wonderfully. And then even then, it doesn't end. It zooms back in, and that's where we add in the knives, and that's where we add on the guns, and the larger, and just the craziness of it all. It was just, really, just choreographically beautiful, amazing camera work, visceral, just pulled you into the whole thing. And then as it ends with the shot through the door, and you just see the hole, and then pulls right back in. Then we see that the kid's dead. The cost of doing all of this is what I said. If he had just said, get out of the way and use the voice, would have been fine. Could even have them hurt themselves. But it is his necessity to dole out justice his way that unfortunately ended up, I think, costing the kid his life. And could be what actually really prompts our visit from Hitler at the airport. Sooner or later, Jesse, you're coming to hell. And that's true, I think, at this point. This, again, the cost of doling out justice with a hand-to-hand is, it's not the violence that he perpetuated, it's the cost to others that relays. I mean, even sending Eugene to hell. You know, these are all the costs of Jesse's decisions and not thinking things through completely. But just a great bit. Super happy to see Hitler again. God, I don't think I'd ever say that phrase. It's hilarious. In town for a conference. Just thought that we should meet. And it was just, I think it's just an interesting bit. I mean, what's the title of it? It all goes to hell at the end. And this is really what we're implying, I think, what might be the ultimate end for Preacher, unless God can do something. But God doesn't want to meet up with Jesse. And God's doing all sorts of higher plays and games and stuff with Jesse right now anyway. Certainly interrupting his flying, which is sad. But yeah, there was just, again, a cool scene with Hitler, seeing the power of the voice, choking himself. All necessary, and there's nothing wrong with watching Hitler almost kill himself. really. But this is, I think, our setup of this is where Jesse is going. I think ultimately what we may find out is this is going to be about what good can he do, what small amount of redemption might he be able to find before he has to pay the price that he kind of knows that he's going to at this point. Now, of course, I just mentioned Eugene, and we did get to catch up with him in The Saint. And the one thing that I actually really enjoyed about this little insight in with Eugene, kind of an unexpected twist, but I personally was glad to see it, is Eugene's not about revenge with Jesse. And the way it was ended last season, it really felt like that's where he was going. That's why he was following the Saint. What, he left me down here? He forgot about me? Oh, he's got to pay. I mean, there was an energy, a feel of vengeance, I think, to Eugene at the end of last season. Here, maybe that got worn out because his feet hurt. There's a lot of walking. It goes on with his travels with this Saint. My feet hurt. Do your feet hurt? My feet hurt. Can we get a car, maybe? I mean, my feet would hurt less if I had a car. Perfect complaining. And then later on, being hungry. I do appreciate that Eugene made a stand at that point. That the Saint and Eugene do need to be together with this, even though the Saint is pretty much unmovable. Oh yeah, the whole God's plan bit. That was, well, what are we doing? It's in God's plan. Well, God's dead. Well, or God's gone. Well, then that's part of his plan too. The eternal optimist Eugene. Again, which is why I'm happy when he says he doesn't like the violence. He doesn't want to see Jesse dead. He wants an apology. But not just any apology. It's gotta be sincere. That seems like a fair ask, really, for everything that he's gone through, and apparently going through a lot more. Yeah. Glory hole. Really the wrong type of thing for someone like Eugene with this whole face thing. Did have to laugh as he's in the toilet there, and the guy sort of taps the foot with this wide stance. Some of you will get that reference. Political scandal many years ago, but I had to kind of laugh as soon as the feet went wide and he was tapping him like, there's a guy with a wide stance. Using that to, well, not get toilet paper. That's not what he's asking for. That was strange. Just went right for it. Hey, see the hole? Boom. Just put your mouth up to it. I mean, he gets upset when he sees Eugene's face, thinking that that's something else and is looking for foreplay, but it's not like even asking a hand, not even put it through, not even like take it out, not attempt, not a tease, went straight for headers. I don't know how much of that Eugene got, but it did get him arrested and thrown in a car, and an excellent shot of the Saint just take it out from a distance. I love that bit. Can you move over in the back so I can see and drive and unknowingly make a clear shot for the Saint to blow my head off through this back window? But they got a car now, so less feet hurting. And finally, Herr Starr. Was he losing it? I think he might be losing it. Again, a little discussion in the chat before. Really concerned about his looks. He's all powerful. He's the head of the Grail. He intimidates. He's got strength. He's got character. But he's concerned if he's still attractive. I mean, I guess everybody wants to feel loved. Beauty is beauty, as Hoover 2 does say. But yeah, kind of surprising that Herr Starr is drifting into that direction. Though beautifully presented as he's asking that, with his scarred eye, a penis top of his head, and foreskin coming off of his ear. Why didn't he just get Cass's ear? He's definitely going for the... I think he's growing that around his head. I think he's going to get a lot more. I don't know what's up with Herr Starr, especially if he's concerned about attraction. I know Jesse did say some things. I don't think he said that he could fix it. Because that would be the most natural thing. You got a vampire, get some skin, some grafting, fix your skull. I don't think he can do that. I think if I remember, Jesse said that he had to leave it alone. And then, of course, later denied him hats. Really should have gotten that hat thing back. But anyway, that's really it with Starr. We get to meet Hoover 2. I love their interaction as Starr is asking about attraction and so on. And he's just like, nope. I mean, powerful is all this. This is great, you're strong, you're this and this. But attractive? Nope. It just doesn't even phase, doesn't even try to lie. You gotta appreciate that, I think, from a certain extent. And then, of course, ultimately interrupted by Featherstone discovering, of course, the whole wig thing and her full Tulip obsession. That's going to continue, of course. Not really much to talk about on that. Just standard Featherstone hunting Tulip stuff. Alright, just a couple of small things. One, I don't think turtle pie can really compete with whiskey. I'm not saying one is better than the other or worse than the other. I'm just saying that's not even apples and oranges. Those are two entirely different things. Really hitting the body different. I mean, a sugar rush is good. That can clear things up. But, yeah, my guess is Saint's not going to want to stop at the next family restaurant that they walk past. Gotta be a bar. Also, for all those particulars out there, I know it's a Batman shirt. It's not a Preacher shirt. My other Preacher shirt's in the wash. But, I mean, I guess technically Preacher was released through Vertigo Comics, and that's a subsidiary of DC, which Batman is associated with. So they are kind of related in a sort of twisty business kind of fashion. Our poor pilot. Definitely was not expecting to see that mess in the hallway when he walked out of whatever room and decides that he was in. Sans pants. I loved that whole bit. Oh, he's just in the car and he's going to leave. He's like, I don't have pants. I got to get pants. You don't need pants. I don't need pants. I guess we're going to the airport and I don't need pants. Let's go. I do appreciate at least Jesse mind wiping him effectively of what he saw inside. I don't think that pilot would be able to hand it. Still don't know how we got a plane all of his own. Also, really, horns on planes? I don't think that that's right. But it fits Preacher's world. And of course, God still keeping an eye on Jesse there, was up in the window at Desaad's as he and the pilot drove off to the airport. So watching everything that's going on and manipulating from afar. I think that's his whole bit when we saw the models at the end of last week's episode. I think that's symbolic of God playing with all of these elements around with Jesse, including the plane crash and all of that. So, yeah. Also, the news report in the airplane there that started sparking to life before the oxygen mask sort of dropped down from the ceiling. That was, yes, exactly what Hoover 2 was writing up with Herr Starr's corrections, the devil incarnate. So, yeah, definitely putting Jesse out into the public world is persona non grata everywhere. When Eugene got arrested, and the cop gave him to the other cop, he said, send him back to the orphanage. What exactly did that mean? I mean, Eugene does not look that young anymore. That would not be the first thought. I mean, perhaps that's just sort of an actor thing. To be honest, I don't remember how old Eugene was. I guess he was in high school and stuff. But still, back to the orphanage? It seemed to be implying something else, which is I thought was going to be a whole new scene we were going to see. But, no, the Stain's bullet to the back of that guy's head, that pretty much solved that out. Anyway, was just curious. Alright, so where we leave things is Jesse's plane is going down. Cass is being shipped off to Bensonhurst, and hopefully Tulip will be able to catch up with him before he's subjected to the deli cutter. God, so wrong with that. But we'll have to wait until next week to see where all of that goes. That will wrap us up for now. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me with these reviews. Do want to let you know some stuff coming up. We've got the season finale, the series finale of Legion tomorrow night. Going to be the big battle, Charles Xavier versus Farouk versus David. A lot of stuff going on with that. Can't wait to see how that's going to play out. And then this Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, we'll be live streaming on this channel right here, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6 discussion. We'll have Rob Stone from Smirking Gun Reviews and Don Willie from A Dawn of Ice and Fire talking all about Season 6, what we liked, what we enjoyed, what we thought about the villains, some thoughts looking forward to Season 7, and of course we will be diving into the whole discussion on Coulson and his resurrection, possible resurrection. What are they going to do with him? A lot of people have thoughts on this. Cannot wait to dive into that. So that is going to be on Wednesday. And then the next day, Thursday, I will be over at Enchantment of Eternity with Marc. We're going to be discussing seasons 3 and 4 of Lost. So if you're a big Lost fan, jump on over to Enchantment of Eternity. That's going to be 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, I believe also as well, over on Marc's channel there. I will put links in the description. I'll send out little notices. Pay attention to Twitter. Do all of that stuff, and you won't miss any of those things. And of course, we got the whole rest of this season of Preacher coming up too, and then we've got Walking Dead in October, so lots of fun stuff coming up. So that's what is going to be here. Please be sure to join us with any of this, but as usual, if you enjoyed this review, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, and comments, throw those down in the section below. You can catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. You can press this button to subscribe. Don't miss any of these reviews and special discussions, and we'll throw up a couple of our latest reviews right here for you to check out. So, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.